thought it was muted. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC 287. We have a 13-fight card here. A nice pay-per-view card, a really good card, especially this main card. Really looking forward to it. But we have Israel Adesanya going against Alex Pereira, too. We have Pereira up 3-0 on Adesanya between kickboxing and MMA. 1-0 in MMA and looking forward to seeing if Adesanya can come back and tie it up here in terms of MMA, make it 1-1 here. But yeah, really good card. Looking forward to be back after a week off, a well-needed week off after an 8-week stretch. And now we have a 7-week stretch that I'm looking forward to. And we kick it off with a really good card to start it off. But as always, I'm here with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to UFC 287?
Yeah, it's always nice after a week off to come back to some content, come back to some gambling. You know, we got to relax this week. I know some people were out there really betting heavy on PFL and Bellator and CFFC. I took the week off, man. I needed it. Definitely a very long week for me, but I'm happy to be back, man. And we, like you said, dude, this main card is fantastic. And we've got, you know, a couple of debuts on this card, real interesting fights. And then I'm really looking forward to Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas. And there's some really fantastic bets all over, up and down this card. So looking forward to chopping it up with you in the chat. Always good to be back for Stat Diggers.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, I have no bets thus far, but I guess a couple things are sticking out. So looking forward to talking about it with you, with the chat as well. See if we can find any spots on this card. I think from a fan perspective, this card's awesome. Betting perspective, I don't know, not a ton sticking out right now, but maybe that changes after the show. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. Do want to shout out the chat. It's been a week, guys. Missed you guys. We got Sean, first one in the chat. We got Lucid in the chat as well. Victor De Jesus. We got Leonardo. We got Mushroom in the chat as well. We got Jason, Ollie1, Genova, Hipster, Jesus. We got Wiz Bets. We got David. What is up, everybody? And we got Wiz with the dono, $4.99. Appreciate you, Wiz. Wiz saying a shout out to the boys watching this live from the Circus Sportsbook, sweating this NRFI. Well, hopefully you cash some bets, Wiz. Thank you for the dono and thank you for tuning in here on a Sunday. But yeah, Weezy, I say we get right into it. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. We got Jacqueline Amarim going against Sam Hughes. So Amarim, she is 27 years old, 5'3" with a 67.5-inch reach. Sam Hughes, she is 30 years old, 5'5" with a 64-inch reach. Amarim is 3 years younger. Amarim's going to have a 2-inch height disadvantage, but she's going to have a 3.5 reach advantage. Amarim is 5-0 in her last 5 fights, all of them coming inside the distance. All of them coming in the first round. Sam Hughes is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Had a decision loss to the very handsome Loma Lookboonmee, a decision loss to Luana Pinheiro, a decision win against Estela Nunez, a knockout win against Elise Reed, and then a decision loss to Pereira Rodriguez. So, Weezy, what sticks out to me right away with Amarim is the fact that she's a killer. Like, she is an absolute killer. I mean, it's not often you see a 115-pound woman go out there and starch hose like she does. Yeah. I mean, she is running through these fighters. There is one problem. The only problem is she's fighting like complete cans. I mean, very low-level competition, but she's going out there and she looks really impressive. She's a black belt in BJJ. She had a nice knockout win, but it's when she gets the fight down to the mat when she's at her best. I mean, she's going out there, she's taking these fighters down, and when she does get on top of you, the fight's going to be over shortly after. The thing about Amarim is she's never left the first round, which is very weird for a strawweight. 6 fights, and she's never seen the second round. I think the one fight went 4 minutes, and her last fight went 4 minutes and 39 seconds into the first round. So that's her longest fight. But prior to that, a win in 1:26 with the knee bar, a knockout win in 10 seconds, a 33-second rear naked choke, a 1 minute and 58-second arm triangle, a 1 minute and 31-second arm bar. Prior to her last win against Ashley Nichols, she had never been over half of a round. And this is a strawweight fight. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Amarim, looking forward to seeing her make her debut. She's a big favorite. I feel like, the odds always seem to disrespect Sam Hughes a little bit. And I do like what I see from Amarim, but I want to pump the brakes just a little bit because this is going to be like her first real fight. But yeah, from what I've seen, Weezy, I was very impressed with Amarim. I know you're able to watch her a little bit. Any thoughts on how she looks against this level of competition? And are you excited about her debut here?
Yeah, I mean, I watched all of her fights. It didn't take long. It's like watching one Cynthia Calvillo fight. You can watch the entire career of Jacqueline Amarim over 6 fights. That career has spanned 10.28 minutes with a 1.71 minute average fight time. 100% finish rate, all in the first round. She's a BJJ black belt, and she's even showed a little bit of power on the feet in the Megan Owen fight. She starched that whole on the feet with her punches. And that's really not known what she's known for, but she's so dangerous as a grappler. If she gets better with her striking, she's just going to be a serious problem to deal with. And on the other side, we got Sam Hughes, who's got 6 more fights than Jacqueline does. About a year and a half more as a professional, 115 more minutes in the pro cage, 6 more fights at the UFC level, almost 80 more minutes in that UFC cage. Now, Jacqueline's win over Loveth Young's are the best win that she has on her record. Loveth Young's a little tank, but she absolutely destroyed her and got her with a knee bar, I believe. Hughes, though, is going to be very interesting, right? Because we see Jacqueline just go out there and get the job done in round 1 over and over and over again. But when you watch Sam Hughes fight, she gets better as the fight goes on. So the question is if Sam Hughes can survive round 1, she might be worth a live bet here. Because go and watch, for instance, a good fight to tape is the Luana Pinheiro versus Sam Hughes fight, because Luana we're going to be talking about later on this card, Brady. And, we see Luana go out there and win that first round against Sam. Then in the second round, Sam starts pressuring. Luana's getting a little bit tired. She's walking forward. She's throwing more volume. She's winning that fight up until the last 30 seconds of round 2, when Pinheiro, who had been saving her energy, came forward with a blast combo, bringing her feet with her, dropped Sam, got on top of her, won the last 30 seconds of the round. So she won that round. She stole that round in the second. But then Sam Hughes went out there and won the third against her. Sam's got excellent cardio. A former high-level steeplechase runner in college. And steeplechase is just a crazy event where it's a long-distance hurdle race where one of the hurdles has a water pit in front of it, so you land in the water. It's a weird sport, but Charles Johnson and Sam Hughes both, performed at a very high level. And if you're running steeplechase, you have excellent cardio. So this is going to be interesting, man, because we've never seen Jacqueline out of the first round. So I think that if you're on that Sam Hughes side, maybe look at a live bet after round 1, especially if she gets shaved but winds up surviving, because we just don't know. That's missing information that we don't have on Jacqueline Amarim, is how is she going to look after round 1 in her debut, where it's possible to have that adrenaline dump, where it's possible to have those nerves under the bright lights. This is a live crowd here. This is the big cage. This is a pay-per-view event. So there are some things that could happen here that can make Sam Hughes a very live dog. But man, when you watch, like I have one word of notes on Jacqueline Amarim, and it's wow. That's just really what it is. When you watch her fight, you're like, fuck, man. It's not like she's a one-trick pony, She's got a knee bar. She's got a rear naked choke. She's got an arm bar. She's got an arm triangle. She's got a knockout. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her make her debut here. But in Sam Hughes, if she doesn't get Sam Hughes out of there in the first round, it's gonna be a very interesting fight for the last 10 minutes. So I'm picking Jacqueline to get the job done. I think she's the better fighter overall, but she's got to prove it. This is definitely a show me spot, and I'm not in the habit, Brady, of laying minus 250 on UFC debutantes that are female and making their debuts, against very experienced fighters like Sam Hughes.
Yeah. I mean, the money line is not something I'm interested in. Amarim actually opened up minus 400, is currently minus 240. Sam Hughes opened up plus 330, currently plus 205. So yeah, money has came in on Sam Hughes, and I get it. If this fight does leave the first round, there's a lot of question marks, but I think it's all going to come down to whether Amarim gets the takedown. If she does, I honestly think the fight's going to be over shortly after. Like, I think her grappling is incredible. But yeah, if Hughes can stuff those takedowns and get this extended, I think it's going to get very interesting. But yeah, Hughes has not shown the best takedown defense thus far. What is it on paper? Like around 50%?
Yeah, let's talk about that. She's been taken down 12 times on 23 attempts. So she's allowing 2.28 takedowns per 15 minutes on less than 50% takedown defense. So against Jacqueline Amarim, that is a very powerful statistic, which is what's leading the markets to say, I want my money on Jacqueline Amarim in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's not good. Rodriguez took her down 5 times. Pinheiro took her down twice. Luma Boomy took her down 4 times. Even Tisha Torres took her down. See, I think it's like one takedown, and this fight could be over shortly after. I don't think Sam Hughes' grappling's on Amarim's level. So, yeah, I like Amarim inside the distance. And a bet that I'm highly considering is the under. It's at plus money. Like, the under 2.5 is at plus money. I think that's solid considering Amarim's never even seen a second round. So, she's never even been over 1.5 rounds. So, that's something I'm very much considering. It opened up plus 275 on Bet Online, and then it was sitting at plus 177 for a while, plus 148. So money's been pouring in on it, but at plus money, I still don't hate it. But yeah, the pick for me as well as Amarim, but minus 240, not much you can do that with that. And I think a lot can go wrong as well, laying minus 240 here.
I mean, can you imagine working at a sports book, looking at the career of one of the fighters involved in a fight, saying she's never been out of the first round. She's finished all 6 of her wins. Let's open up the under 2.5 at plus 275. I mean, what are they, politicians? I mean, that's like fucking up a cup of coffee. How could you open the line there? But I'm really pissed off that I didn't see that, because I would have loved to have smashed that line at that price, man.
Oh. Yeah, absolutely. That would have been a good one for sure. But yeah, it should be a fun fight to kick off the card. Looking forward to the debut of Amarim. All right, moving on to the next fight. We have Shalion and Nurdenbeke going against Steve Garcia. We got Shalion, 28 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Steve Garcia, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. We have Shalion 2 years younger. It's going to be Steve Garcia with a massive 4-inch height advantage and then a 6-inch reach advantage as well. Shalion Nurdenbeke, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Josh Kulabau, lost that fight by decision. He beat Sean Soriano by decision, also beat TJ Brown by decision, and then it beat Derek Minner by KO in the first round. Steve Garcia, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Luis Pena, lost that fight by decision. He knocked out Charlie Ontiveros' next fight out. He lost to Meerschaert by knockout, and then he just completely destroyed Chase Hooper. I mean, went back and watched that fight today. That fight was hard to watch. I think that was one of the worst beatings I've ever seen from Steve Garcia put on Chase Hooper. Knocked him down like 3 or 4 times and finished him there. But yeah, should be a fun fight here. We have a striker versus grappler matchup. I think Shaliana's striking is coming along. It looked a lot better in that TJ Brown fight, but ultimately he is going to be looking to get the fight down to the mat here. Steve Garcia has a ton of power on the feet. I think that's very apparent after that Chase Hooper fight and that Ontiveros fight. But yeah, should be a fun fight here. We have a kind of a wide line on Nurdenbeke, and a fight I feel like could be a little bit closer than this line does indicate. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I watched that tape, the tape on the TJ Brown fight, for instance, against Shalion, and I was like, Shalilan's striking is improving. He throws with a lot of power. He's not great defensively, obviously. He leaves his chin up in the air, but he throws with power and purpose, and he kind of brings a decent little variety of strikes. Good front kicks up the middle, good head kicks, left and right. He throws that big overhand right, looking to land it and land it heavily. And if he misses, he can kind of tumble in on your hips and shoot in on a takedown as well. So Shalilan's definitely the type of fighter that I like to back. I like guys that can go out there and win minutes with their wrestling, but they're good enough with their wrestling, understanding how they can be a good stand-up fighter. And that's, in the case of Shalilan, it's, throwing with power, trying to take your opponent's head off, because it will wind you up in the clinch very often, and you'll be landing big shots every once in a while, and it'll allow you to be able to set up those wrestling entries when your opponent starts worrying about the power in your striking. And Obviously, Garcia's got a ton of power. That dude's left hand is nasty, and he throws it from wide angles, looking to take your head off with it. And he's a pretty well-rounded guy, too. We saw him kind of use his ground game, albeit against Charlie Ontiveros, who really doesn't have much of a ground game at all. But, we've seen him be able to take different game plans to different fights and use that well-rounded skill set of his to use what he does best. And, he used his stand-up and his power in the Chase Hooper fight when he didn't want to grapple. He used his wrestling and his takedowns and his top control in the Ontiveros fight when Ontiveros was having success on the feet. So I think that Garcia is going to have to do a similar type of game plan against Shayilan that he did against Hooper, and that's just keep moving, keep circling. Don't let Shayilan back you up against the cage. Land that big-ass left hand, which is going to be open for business. It's another southpaw versus orthodox matchup. But, we saw Steve Garcia get out ahead of himself after throwing a sloppy left hand against Meerschaert. He missed it. He kind of left his chin up in the air and got his head out over his knees. And Meerschaert, with that piston-like right hand, caught him right on the head and put him down and finished him. So I think that Shayilan's could land a big shot on the feet here. I think he can absolutely get takedowns. It's pretty wild because this is one of the places where the stats can be just a little bit deceiving because you see that Steven Garcia has 100% takedown defense. He's stuffed both takedown attempts that he's seen in the UFC, but he also gave up over 14 minutes of control time in a 15-minute fight to one Luis Pena, who's a kickboxer. And he didn't get taken down once in that fight. So, he kind of has got a little bit of Anthony Smith in him that he can find ways to lose 14 minutes of control time despite the fact that he wasn't even taken down once. So Steve Garcia can absolutely get sloppy. He can absolutely put himself in positions where Shayilan is going to thrive because he's so good with his wrestling, because he's so good with his top control. It's a good matchup for Shayilan. We've seen him get knocked out 2 times in his pro career. And I don't even have the entire pro career in there. It shows 43 professional fights, but my pre-UFC template only takes 40 fights. Shayilan actually has more than that. This guy was fighting like every week for like a 3-year stretch. It's crazy the amount of experience that he has on the regional scene. But yeah, I mean, I like this spot for Shayilan. I think he's going to get takedowns. I think he's going to win minutes against Steve Garcia. And I think that while it's on the feet, both of these guys are absolutely going to be live. Some fun numbers, Brady, right? You look at distance striking stats, and Garcia's landing 14.6 per minute, and he's landing a knockdown on 6% of those distance strikes that land. And he's being knocked down on almost 15% of the distance strikes that land against him. So you're talking about a guy in Garcia who's just, there's a ridiculous amount of knockdowns that are happening in his fights. He's got 3 knockdowns on the offensive side. And Jesus Christ, I mean, he's got 8. He's been knocked down 8 times, according to my stats. That's bonkers. 11 knockdowns in Steve Garcia's fights, and there's only been 4 of them at the UFC level. So this guy really brings violence, really brings exciting fights where anybody could be sparked at any point, Garcia or Garcia's opponent. So I think that this is a good one to look at unders, even though we've seen Shayilan go to decision most of the time, unless he's in a fixed fight against Derek Minner, he's not really finishing them. So yeah, I kind of like the overs here, or I'm sorry, the unders here, and I like Shayilan to win this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good look at the under last week, and this is why I like the weeks off, but then again, I kind of hate them because the under opened up at plus 120, and then it was sitting at plus 145, and now it's minus 150. So yeah, I would have loved it at plus money, but now I'm gonna kind of just stay away here. I think Shayilan's the rightful favorite. Yeah, Garcia's chin is a huge concern, man. I mean, this guy got dropped twice, or I think 3 times even, by Charlie Ontiveros. And I think Nerdebeke can also wrestle as well. So yeah, I think Nerdebeke is the rightful favorite, but I don't really want to lay minus 250 on the guy. So it's going to be a pass fight for me. If you got the under at plus money, good on you. I know a lot of people that did, but minus 150 now seems about right to me, because I could see Sean Leon going out there and just wearing on this guy like Pena did for 15 minutes as well. But I do think a violent spot at plus money was the right move.
Yeah, plus money for sure, but at this point, you're really chasing it, and you really missed it by a lot. So this is kind of like what this card is. We got the week off. Because of that, people got ahead. The lines open up very early, and by the normally we're able to move some lines on this show by being the first big show of the week, Brady. But man, this stuff's been they beat us to market here by a week, and a lot of these have moved already.
Yep, and that was one that I really wish I would have got ahead of on the tape and got that plus 145, but it's gone now, and that's fine. I'm not going to be going out and chasing it.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving on. We have a short notice replacement. Do you know who Bahamondes was supposed to fight?
Nick Mata.
Oh, okay, that would have been
a fun fight, man.
Oh yeah. But yeah, luckily Trey Ogden is stepping in here against Bahamondes. Bahamondes, 25 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Ogden, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. We have Bahamondes 8 years younger. Bahamondes with a 4-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Ignacio Bahamondes is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against John Makdessi, lost that fight by split decision. He beat Roosevelt Roberts by knockout, that viral knockout, and end of the 3rd round. He beat Rong Zhu by submission after Rong Zhu came in there with a terrible hairstyle choice with that pink hair. Rightfully went out there and finished him in brutal fashion there at the 3rd round sub. As far as Trey Ogden, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He went out there against Jordan Levitt and lost that fight by decision. And then he goes out there and beats Daniel Zellhuber by decision. A fight that still till this day just doesn't make sense. Like stylistically, you go out there and get outstruck by Jordan Levitt, and then the next fight you come in there and you win a striking fight against Daniel Zellhuber. I think that had a lot to do with Zellhuber just not showing up, though, to be honest. And yeah, I think Bahamondes is absolutely going to show up. I'm really impressed with Bahamondes. He's a guy that has struggled with the grappling in past. He's been submitted twice in his career, but a lot of those were a long time ago. I think 2016, 2017. I think he's working on that. He's even showing some grappling of his own with a submission his last time out. He's huge for the division, 6'3", 75-inch reach. He has a ton of power. There are some things that do concern me with Bahamondes going forward, like the striking defense is piss poor. I mean, this guy eats punches with his face, and he doesn't wear the damage well at all. Like, he's bleeding in every single fight. Looked awful in the Makdessi fight. Even in the Roberts fight, like, his face was completely bloodied up. So I don't like that. I don't like how he's willing to eat those punches, but against Trey Ogden, I don't really think that's going to be too much of a factor. I think it's a pretty good matchup for Bahamondes. I think he has really good takedown defense. He showed that off in the Roberts fight, stuffing a ton of takedowns in that matchup. I don't think Ogden has the best wrestling to get him down to the mat. And I think if this fight does play out on the feet, and when it does, it should be Bahamondes really all day, as long as he shows up, unlike Daniel Zellhuber. So I like Bahamondes quite a bit. He has one of the biggest favorites on the card, but I think it's rightfully deserved. I like Bahamondes here to win this fight. I don't know if it's going to be inside the distance or knockout or sub. Ogden's been subbed a couple times, but I do like Bahamondes to win this fight regardless. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, I really like Ignacio here. This is basically the same fight that Trey Ogden had last time against Zellhuber. A taller, longer, striking specialist with some really flashy stuff from the outside. And Trey Ogden was a big underdog, minus 250 was what damn.
Ogden?
Why isn't even showing that fight in there? I don't even see the Zellhuber fight in his history. I screwed that one up, but it's probably because I put it before. Anyway, Trey Ogden, he shouldn't have won that fight. It was just Zellhuber went out there and just had one of the all-time pants-shitting performances. If you watch Zellhuber on tape prior to that Ogden fight, he's an absolute killer. He's aggressive. He throws a lot of volume. And in the Trey Ogden fight, you have a guy who's literally never knocked anybody out in his 21-fight career. And Zellhuber was really hesitant to engage, as if Trey Ogden had any power at all on the feet. That's just not going to happen with Ignacio. Ignacio is going to go out there and fight the fight that Zellhuber should have. and he's probably going to look minus 250, minus 300 against Ogden, because if he goes out there and does what he should do, which is just disrespect the striking of Trey Ogden and say, I'm going to stop your takedowns, we're going to keep this on the feet, and I'm going to pretend like you don't have power because you don't, and I do. So I think this is going to be what Bahamondes does. I mean, if you look at the numbers thus far in the UFC, Brady, he's offering 19.69 distance strike attempts per minute spent at distance. His opponents are only throwing 14. He's outlanding his opponents by 3 distance strikes per minute spent at distance. He's 45% accurate, and he's got a 58.5% distance striking defense as well. The reason that he lost that fight to Makdessi was Makdessi landed one big right hand in that first round. And they call Makdessi the bull because of the way that he fights. And he just walked Ignacio down the entire fight, which is exactly what he had to do because he was at such a huge reach disadvantage here. That's basically, I mean, everything that Ogden needs to do in order to win this fight. I haven't seen him do it on tape. I don't see him being a great wrestler. I don't see him being a powerful striker. And I don't see him being technical enough on the feet in order to win minutes at range against somebody that's got as much of a diversity of weapons that Ignacio Bahamondes has. And then you add in that, that he's stuffed 15 of 16 takedowns, and that Ignacio's fought some really good competition on the regional scene as well. So I just think that this is a great spot for Ignacio, but where the line's at, Brady, I just don't know. I don't know how we make money off of this fight.
Yep. Like I said, I think he's the third biggest favorite on the card, Bahamondes. It's only open on one book, and then that's Bet Online. You opened up minus 280, currently minus 290 there on Bet Online. We have no props, nothing like that. Yeah, I think Bahamondes is probably my favorite pick on the entire card to win, but yeah, minus 290, probably a parlay piece, but as I'm looking through the card, there's not a ton of parlay pieces to really pair him with. So yeah, it might be a fight I just sit back and watch unless I can find a parlay piece I like later in the week. But right now, nothing's sticking out.
Yeah, I hear you. We were talking about another parlay piece that we'll talk about later on in the card. Maybe that's the parlay we put together this week to try to get something close to even money. But we'll talk about it in a few fights.
Yep. David's saying that the under 2.5 is set at a pick'em minus 115. Not sure what book that is. Maybe DraftKings.
Yeah, what book is that? Did they do that on DraftKings just now?
I'm not sure, but that could be interesting. Under at minus
still not on DraftKings, so I don't know where he's. I'm sorry, that might be on DraftKings. It's not on Bet Online.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe a DraftKings or an offshore, but yeah, I'll double check to see if that's out on DK. But we can move on to the next fight. We have, oh boy, Lupita Godinez,
Brady's favorite fighter. For all those of you who are new to the show.
I remember that rant I had. It had to have been like 10 minutes long about Lupita Godinez. Yeah, I mean, this is a fight that I could care less. I'm done with Lupita, to be honest, after that stunt she pulled against Hill. But she's taken on Calvillo, and guess what? She's a big favorite again. Lupi, she's 29 years old, 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. Calvillo, 35 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. Lupita Godinez, 6 years younger, a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Lupi is 2-3 in her last 5. No, 3-2 in the last 5 fights. She had a submission win against Silvana Gomez Juarez, a decision loss against Luana Carolina, a decision win against Loma Lukbunmi, a decision win against Ariana Carnelosi, and then a decision loss against Angela Hill. As far as Cynthia Calvillo, she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Jessica Ai, a decision loss to Caitlin Chukagan, knockout loss to Andrea Lee, and Jessica Andrade, and then a decision loss to Nina Nunez. Weezy, take it away.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to have to take this one away because Brady's going to do his best to be a professional here and just not go on a string of profanities talking about that Lupi Godinez versus Angela Hill fight. But yeah, this is the fight that I'm least interested on for the card. But, I laughed out loud when I saw the line. I'm like, really? Oh. You can shit the bed against Angela Hill as a minus 300 favorite and then open up minus 300 versus Lupi, versus Cynthia Calvillo. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't get that. It doesn't make much sense, but Cynthia Calvillo's had a rough run, man. You know, I mean, 4 straight losses, but to good competition. It seems like she's lost. She's one of these fighters that forgot who she is. She really needs better coaching. She's been over at Team Alpha Male too long. We've seen too many fighters, especially female fighters from Team Alpha Male, forget that they're grapplers when they're really grapplers and try to outstrike people that they're better than. The Nina Nunez fight, absolutely perfect example of that. Cynthia was just waiting way too long to shoot for takedowns. Cynthia does her best work on the ground, man. She always has. And she's the amount of takedowns that she's been shooting as her career gets older and older, she's wrestling less and less, and it's a really, really bad recipe for success for her. But Lupi Godinez is not going to want to wrestle here. And when we look at the best performances that we've seen from Lupi thus far in the UFC, namely the Carnelossi fight and the Gomez Juarez fight, it's when she's wrestling and grappling that she's really doing her best work. And she even beat Loma Lukbunmi by getting some takedowns against her. So, but she doesn't want to take down Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo's only been taken down 4 times in 12 UFC fights. And that's because you just don't try to take this girl down. It would be really stupid. You look at Cynthia's numbers, 19 takedowns for Cynthia. She's only given up 4. She's 44% on her takedowns, 75% takedown defense. She gets 20.5% control time 4. She's yielding only 1.31%. So she's winning 94% of the control time positions that she finds herself in. She's just not getting there enough. And Lupi is also winning a ton of control time positions. You look at the numbers there, 46% control time 4, only 11% control time yielded for Lupi. 24 takedowns for Lupi. She's only given up 3. So Lupi is somebody else that, like I say, she's doing her best work when she's winning minutes with her wrestling and grappling. If I don't think that Lupi is going to be able to go to that to win minutes here, then I would have to be out of my goddamn mind, Brady, to lay minus 300 on her here. Am I laying minus 300 saying Lupi just pieces her up from distance, which could happen, but Cynthia Calvillo's got serviceable striking. If this winds up being a 15-minute striking match, it's going to be a coin flip at the end of it. I really believe that. So, yeah, I mean, this one feels like a dog or pass, but yeah, Lupi Godinez is 6 years younger. She's the better wrestler. She's just hotter right now in terms of what she's been doing. She's been winning fights. She's won 3 out of her last 5 fights. She's beaten a very good opponent in Loma Lukbunmi. The losses come to a very experienced Angela Hill and to Luana Carolina up a weight class on short notice and a quick turnaround. So I see why Lupi's the favorite here. But we always talk about it, Brady. What do we say? We don't bet against bad fighters, right? We bet on good fighters. Well, how the fuck do you lay minus 300 on somebody that just went out there and shot 3 takedowns against Angela Hill? You don't. You just don't, especially when you can't really even count on her to wrestle here, because it probably wouldn't be smart of her to do so, because Cynthia Calvillo is the better submission grappler here, probably by a lot. So, yeah, I feel like it's dog or pass, and I feel like an underdog ticket on Cynthia Calvillo here isn't the worst way to go.
Yeah, I won't be watching this fight, but I was going back through my notes to find my notes on the Lupita breakdown that I did, and it was great. I want to read this. I'm going to wake up screaming in the middle of the night at 3:25 a.m. each night. Why 3:25 a.m. you ask? Because I parlayed Lupi Godinez as a minus 325 favorite, and that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. And I also have
325.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it happened, man. It happened. I still have these tickers up from the Lupi breakdown as well. Insane, absurd, silly, ludicrous, and ridiculous. Yeah, that was a ludicrous game plan by Lupi. Yeah, she's a big favorite. Looks like minus 240 on Bet Online, but everywhere else, yeah, she's like minus 350, minus 310. I mean, a lot can go wrong laying this price tag on Loop. Yeah, she should win the fight, but my goodness, it's not something I'm going to be interested in touching there.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, this is if I wind up with money on this fight, I'm either bored or really drunk at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I like this spot. But I mean, if I'm sober and if I'm doing my best bankroll management, I'm probably not going to have a dime on this fight.
Yeah, AJ saying you've got to be a complete buffoon to lay big chalk women's MMA. Funny you say that because I think I've only laid chalk on women's MMA once since that Loopy fight, and it was Luma Luke Boonmi against Elise Reed. That was the last time I laid chalk on WMMA, and it worked out. But yeah, I really got to pick my spots when you do so. There's been a lot of big WMMA upsets lately. Like who was that? Veronica Hardy was a massive dog against what's her face, but
Miller was like minus 400 almost there, or maybe even more than that.
It was something wild, something crazy.
Man, and then Andrea Lee basically beats Macy Barber as a plus 220 underdog. She just doesn't get the nod there. There's been a lot of spots over these last 6 weeks where you've laid minus 150 or worse on a women's fighter, and it just fell apart like a Chinese motorcycle.
Yep. Absolutely. But I am looking forward to talking about this next fight. We have Joe Pyfer going against Gerald Meerschaert. We got Pyfer, 26 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Gerald Meerschaert, 35 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Pyfer's 9 years younger. Pyfer's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and then a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Gerald Meerschaert is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a submission win against Bartosz Fabinski, a submission win against Makhmud Muradov, a submission win against Dustin Stoltzfus, a decision loss against Krzysztof Jotko, and then a submission win against Bruno Silva. As far as Joe Pyfer, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had that injury loss on the Contender Series against Dustin Stoltzfus, bounced back with a knockout win outside the UFC, came on the Contender Series, knocked out Diaz in the second round there, and then knocked out Alan Amedovski in the very first round. Yeah, really looking forward to this fight. Gerald Meerschaert is a guy that has 50 professional fights. The majority of those 50 are coming by submission. This guy's an incredible grappler. He's a guy that has been knocked out quite a few times in the UFC. We saw Heinisch starch him. We saw Khamzat Chimaev starch him. But yeah, was able to take the shots well against Makhmud Muradov in that first round, came back and subbed him. And then he was also able to take the shots well against a very hard hitter in Bruno Silva. I will say Bruno Silva showed up to that fight. It looked like he was drunk. Not sure what happened with Bruno Silva that fight, but he looked like off. I think Bruno Silva only landed like 30 strikes for the duration of the fight. But regardless, it was a good win. It was a good upset win as well for Gerald Meerschaert. I'm really impressed with Joe Pyfer. He's training with those Gracie Philly guys, Sean Brady, Petroschi, guys like those. So he's a good grappler, has good offensive wrestling, and a lot of power. I feel like it's a good spot for Pyfer, but it's always dangerous counting out Gerald Meerschaert. Like Meerschaert's a guy that he's always the dog, and he'll always go out there and surprise you and come back and get a win. So it's a spot where I want to be kind of weary a little bit in terms of laying chalk on Pyfer, but I feel like stylistically he can, either A, mix in takedowns. I feel like he can dictate where this fight takes place, or B, use his defensive wrestling, keep on the feet, potentially knock out Gerald Meerschaert. But yeah, I do like Pyfer here, but Meerschaert's a guy that I've counted out in the past, and he seems to always come back and bite me a little bit. So a fight that I'm really looking forward to, but not a fight that I'm looking forward to really betting here. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight, obviously, because Pyfer is an amazing prospect, still only 26 years old, too. And that's in the middleweight division where, you can have some longevity in this division. You look at a guy like Meerschaert, he's won 4 out of his last 5 fights. He's 35 years old. He's got 50 professional fights, and this guy is still winning and winning at a very high clip here against good names here. Makhmud Muradov, Bruno Silva are 2 of his last 4 wins, and he's losing to a guy like Jotko, who's just a really, really good minute winner at the UFC level. But with Pyfer, you got a guy who's got a ton of power in both of his hands. I thought it was only in the right hand until the Amedovski fight, when he just lands this beautiful left hook on the chin and just sleeps Amedovski with that one. And then, the performance against Ozzy Diaz was amazing. The great performance against Austin Trotman. Trotman took that fight on short notice, but between the Stoltzfus fight and the Trotman fight, we saw Pyfer take a year and 4 months off to rehab that dislocated elbow that he got on Dana White Contender Series by posting up after getting taken down by Dustin Stoltzfus. So yeah, you can never ever count on a guy who's got 27 wins by submission, and that's Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert is also pretty durable. I mean, he takes some big shots on the feet, and he kind of just marches forward like a zombie. 53 takedown attempts in 17 fights for Gerald Meerschaert. He's gotten 20 of them. He's averaging 2.17 per 15 minutes. And then when he gets fights to the ground, man, he's very, very active there. You take the submission attempts per 15 minutes and the reverses per 15 minutes, you add those numbers up, and he gets more of those than he gets takedowns. So whenever the fight hits the mat, whether Meerschaert's on the bottom or whether he's on the top, he's extremely dangerous. And guess what, Brady? We're talking about 17 UFC fights, almost 140 minutes in the cage for Gerald Meerschaert. He's spending almost 50% of his time in control time positions. So that's the archetype of fighter where you're saying it doesn't matter whether Gerald's on the top or on the bottom. If you give him 7.5 minutes out of 15 to find a submission, to find a sweep, to find setups for the way that he finishes fights, he's probably going to win, man. He's 10-7, and like you said, how many times is this guy going off as a favorite? It's almost never. And it's because Gerald Meerschaert can lose minutes. But all it takes is one mistake. And if you're a young fighter and you do something stupid against Gerald Meerschaert, it's over. Ask Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus was beating him. And then he went into his guard. And then it was over. Trevin Giles was beating him, went into his guard, got swept, and then guillotined. You cannot make a mistake against Gerald Meerschaert because he's not this crazy wrestler. He's not going to go out there and attempt 10 takedowns, in a round. He's not going to just absolutely spam those attempts. He's going to wait. He's going to let the fight come to him. And he's such an opportunistic finisher. I mean, you're talking about a guy with 50 professional fights and 35 professional wins. And this guy has got a 94% finish rate. Are you fucking kidding me? 33 wins inside the distance, 27 submissions, and 6 knockouts. This guy finds finishes. And if you fuck up even once against Gerald Meerschaert, you are going to get finished. And that's why it's very difficult to lay this kind of juice on Joe Pyfer right here. He's less experienced. He's not as good of a submission grappler, and he's faced a much lower level of competition over his career. But, man, does he got a ton of power on the feet. Man, is his offensive wrestling good. And, I mean, the power, though, really is the biggest thing here. Big power in both hands, and it's not like Gerald Meerschaert is not hittable. He's definitely hittable. So, yeah, I like Joe Pyfer in this spot, but I cannot get to laying minus 300 on him. You know what I want to see, Brady? I want to see what Gerald Meerschaert by submission is. Because if you're willing to bet Paul Craig by submission, why not bet Gerald Meerschaert by submission? This dude's got 27 wins by submission. Over half the time that this guy steps into the cage, he gets his hand raised because he locks up a submission. And it's like one of 9 different ones that he can go to. He's very, very good. But that guillotine of his is very good.
It's
what is it?
275.
We got to wait for FanDuel. Maybe we can get plus 400 and then throw a half unit on it. I think that's the way to play Meerschaert here. I think if he wins this fight, it's because Pyfer fucks up somewhere. He makes a mistake and he winds up in a web. And Gerald Meerschaert is just so good at finding those opportunistic submission opportunities. And against a younger, more inexperienced fighter, I think that door is that's definitely a possibility here. But this kid Pyfer really does look to have what you need in order to succeed at this level. And when you see it in a 26-year-old man that's training with the level of grapplers that he's training with, you got to believe that the arrow is pointing straight up for Body Bags Pyfer, and that he's just getting started. And we're going to be seeing this kid for a long time to come. And we're going to see him perform at a very high level under the bright lights.
Yeah. I just can't touch this one. Like Pyfer by knockouts -105.
Yeah, no.
The fight doesn't go to decision is -500.
Woo!
Like,
yeah. Yeah, this is a hard card, dude. We were talking
yeah.
about it, Brady, man. Like the bookies are on it. We were talking about like, okay, Carl Williams just got Chase Sherman as an opponent. You know, Carl Williams was -200 against Lucas Bresky. Let's see where he opens. And then you see they opened him at -550. Bet Online was just saying, no, you're not betting Carl Williams. I'm sorry. You're just not. We're going to open him at -550, even though he's taken the fight on short notice. He's got a short turnaround. He's fighting a much more experienced, much more powerful striker. No, we're not letting you bet it. And it's the same thing here. They're just saying the same thing. Now, you want to bet fight doesn't go to decision for Meerschaert Pyfer? Well, try the under 1.5, son, because we're putting the fight doesn't go at -500.
Yep. The fight won't start round 3, like -250. Like the under 1.5 rounds is juiced to -135. So yeah, nothing really sticking. Obviously, it's a violent fight, but nothing you can do with those numbers at all.
Yeah. It's a shame, but you know what? We don't have to have money on this fight because this fight is gonna deliver. This is gonna be a great fight, and you got a really exciting veteran in Meerschaert, who's just an absolute legend of the sport, going up against a young up-and-coming kid with a lot of hype, a lot of power, and a bright future in Pyfer. So if I don't have a dime on this fight, I'm still going to enjoy watching it.
Yep, I will as well. Asher saying, what's the fight starts round 2? On DraftKings, it's -150, but looks like Asher has a -115. I mean, it would be a 5-minute sweat, but if you're into
that would be a sweat, but Meerschaert's not a first-round finisher, and Pyfer does show some patience.
He does. He really does.
He's not like shot out of a cannon, absolute wild man like Daniel Da Silva. This guy finishes fights because he trusts his power, and it really is in both hands. And if he hits you once on the button, it's over.
Yep. Good fight, but a fight that I don't feel like has much value anywhere. So I'm going to be passing on it. All right. Moving on to the next fight. Yeah, very upset. I spent a good chunk of my day last Wednesday, like researching the Chris Barnett Chase Sherman fight. I watched a ton of Chris Barnett fight, watched a ton of Chase Sherman fights, and even had a play on that fight. I had the under 2.5 rounds. Like that spot, didn't think Barnett had the cardio to go 12.5 minutes. Barnett pulled out due to, I think, an injury, which sucks. Was really looking forward to that fight. But that was my only bet on the card. Now I have 0 bets on the card. In steps Carl Williams, which, yeah, I mean, if you're Carl Williams, absolutely, you take this fight on short notice. Remember, he took that Contender Series fight on short notice against that Penn State wrestler, went out there and looked dominant as a big dog. And yeah, if you're Carl Williams, yeah, you take this fight. Chase Sherman is not the best UFC fighter in the world. He's honestly one of the worst. And then on top of that, Chase Sherman has a massive glaring hole in his game, and that's the takedown defense in the ground game. We saw Jake Collier, of all people, go out there, take down Chase Sherman, and once he got him down, Sherman looked like he'd never been off his back ever in his life. And we saw Jake Collier cut him open. Chase Sherman gave his back, and Jake Collier choked him out. Just seems like a very easy matchup for Carl Williams. He's a big favorite for a reason here. Honestly, you could probably even make him a bigger favorite just because he has such a clear path to victory here, and it's not even close. Yeah, this is Carl Williams all day, unless he wants to test his striking against Sherman, which he's not going to. I mean, Carl Williams should take him down. And the thing with Carl Williams, though, he's not a finisher at all. It did look like he had he did want to finish his last fight against Bresky. He did knock him down, I think, in that fight. Hurt him bad. Was close to getting him out of there. Also attempted a submission. But other than that, he's not really a finisher. I think he only has like 2 or 3 finish wins. Would like that to be up a little bit. But yeah, Carl Williams should go out there, either sub Chase Sherman, TKO, or just grind him out for 15 minutes. But yeah, Carl Williams should get this done. On DraftKings, I'm going to be very interested in Carl Williams. He could put up like, I think 130, something crazy like that against Bresky. I think he can put up that again against Chase Sherman. So yeah, this is Williams all day. It's a heavyweight fight, so you want to be kind of cautious, but it's hard seeing Sherman have much of a chance here with that atrocious ground game.
Yeah, I mean, Look, I max bet Carl Williams when he fought Lucas Bresky. You know, when I watched the tape on this guy and then I looked at the line, he was minus 200, but he opened up at plus 130, right? So normally when I see something like that, if I'm on the fighter and I like him to win, but I saw that I missed that much line movement, like, oh, he went from plus 130, now I have to pay minus 200. It's like I won't even, I just stop capping the fight. I'm like, I'm done. In that case, I still max bet him at minus 200 because the tape was that convincing. And Bresky's not somebody that we've known to wrestle a lot anyway. So, you know, it was going to be a very good matchup for him. So naturally, I was, you know, when I saw that Carl was going to be fighting Chase Sherman, a guy who got drowned by Fat Collier, then yeah, I was looking to max bet him again. But, you know, at minus 550, minus 500, there's no point. I can't do it. And I don't know. He might finish him. He might just win by decision. So I don't feel like I want to try the inside the distance prop or the decision prop either. Maybe, you know, just parlay him straight up because, you know, in the heavyweight division, you don't have to be good at a lot of things in order to string together wins. There are so many fucking bad fighters in this division. It's not even funny. So a guy like Carl Williams that was training, you know, with Olympic level wrestlers is going to be able to clean out half this division easily because half this division has never even wrestled in their life. They suck. And Chase Sherman's one of those guys. He's shown good takedown defense early in his career, but once you get him down, I mean, if you're getting drowned by Fat Collier, who's a middleweight, you know, that's a really bad look. And somebody like Carl Williams is relentless with those takedowns. So, I mean, it was some of the easiest money ever. If you were on the over 1.5 takedown prop on Prize Picks, you cashed that one 35 seconds into the fight. And then if you had the, you know, Carl Williams money line at minus 130, minus 150, where a lot of people got it, that was just an easy sweat-free cash. But this line has moved so much. This is such a bad matchup for Chase Sherman. I'm surprised he even said, yeah, I'll take this fight because he didn't have to. You know, he was supposed to fight somebody that was going to be a good matchup for him in Fat Barnett. But now, you know, yeah, I mean, well, he's been in there with, you know, like all the fats. Fat Volante. Oh. Fat Barnett was supposed to be his opponent. He's getting drowned by Fat Collier. He's been in there with all the fat guys, you know, and now he's getting Carl Williams, you know, who's like basically a 205er who said, I'm moving up to heavyweight because all these fat pricks can't stop my takedowns. And we're going to see it again. Carl Williams is going to shave this dude's ass.
Yeah. Williams is not a finisher, but I feel like Sherman's so bad that he probably just finished him. I mean, if you're getting finished by Jake Collier by submission, I feel like Williams should finish him. And I'm actually shocked to see these price tags on 5-Dime. So they have the under 2.5 at plus 125. Like, I'd take a shot at that for sure. Fight doesn't go at minus 105. Yeah, I think Williams could finish Sherman. If he does not finish Sherman, I'm convinced Williams will never get a finish the rest of his career. So, I mean, this is a fight that he probably should go out there and finish. I mean, Sherman's ground game is just, it's non-existent at all. He has no ground game whatsoever, at least with Bresky. Bresky had like some clue of what to do, some clue of how to get up, some clue of how to defend. Sherman, no, nothing.
Yeah, and not only that, like, Sherman is spending 89% of his cage time standing. But the second you take this guy down, it's fucking over. You know, so like even though we know Chase Sherman's going to run into a dick saw on Saturday, that we know that he's going to go out there and get killed, the stats don't even show how bad this guy is on the ground because he's almost never there. But the second it gets there, the fight's over. Romanov, Fat Collier. You know, I mean, these guys are getting him down and they're making him look like an absolute amateur in there. So, yeah, you got to love Carl Williams in this spot. Is there a way to make money on it, though, Brady? I mean, no. They when they open up a short notice opponent at minus 550, it is such a fuck you to everybody that wants to bet that money line.
Yeah. Big favorite, biggest favorite on the card. Yeah, now and he definitely is. He opened up minus 4 something, and now he's minus 5 something. Sherman plus 385, and yeah, I mean, line makes sense to me. Line absolutely does make sense to me, but in terms of a parlay, I don't know, parlaying a minus 500 heavyweight probably not the best idea in the world. and it probably doesn't add much value to the parlay. So yeah, I think it's probably one I'm going to stay away from unless I can get that under at plus money. I think Williams should be able to finish Chase Sherman at some point in this fight. Honestly, probably early. I think Sherman's ground game is that bad, but other than that, I'm going to be staying away from it.
Yeah, agreed, dude. I'm right there with you.
All right, let's keep moving on then. We have Michelle Waterson Gomez going against Luana Pinheiro. We got Waterson is 37 years old, 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. Pinheiro, 30 years old, 5'2" with a 62-inch reach. Pinheiro, 7 years younger. It's going to be Waterson with a 1-inch height advantage, and then they got the same reach there. Michelle Waterson Gomez, she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Joanna Jacek, a decision loss to Carla Esparza, a decision win against Angela Hill, a decision loss to Marina Rodriguez, and then a submission loss to Amanda Lemos. As far as Pinheiro, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Randa Marcos, won that fight by DQ. Prior to that, she did knock out Stephanie Frausto on the Contender Series, and then she beat Sam Hughes by decision. One thing that jumps out to me right off the bat is that level of competition difference between the two. Michelle Waterson Gomez fighting Lemos, Rodriguez, Hill, Esparza, and Jacek, whereas Pinheiro fighting Sam Hughes, Randa Marcos, and Stephanie Frausto, her last 3. So yeah, it's going to be a big step up in competition for Pinheiro. It's going to be a step down in competition for Waterson Gomez. And we have Pinheiro here as the decent-sized favorite. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I've never been that impressed with Luana Pinheiro, but she does a couple of things very well. She's a high-level judo player. She's one of these people that grew up in a judo family, kind of like Ronda Rousey did. She was on the mats at 2 years old, so she is really a nightmare in the clinch because of that. As soon as you get into the clinch with Pinheiro, no matter who you are, you wind up getting dumped on your head over and over again, and she makes it look very easy. In addition to that, she's got power on the feet. Pinheiro will kind of be patient. She'll be low volume, and then it's just blast counters where she's bringing her feet with her, throwing in combination, sometimes 5-6 strikes at a time, tries to get you moving straight backwards to where she can either drop you or then, land shots, then get into the clinch and then dump you on your head and get on top. So there's a lot of things that she does very well, but there's also some things that Pinheiro doesn't do well. One of them is conditioning and pacing. Because she has such high amplitude clinch judo takedowns, those are very taxing. Because she throws with 100% power in most of her strikes, it doesn't allow her to be able to throw a lot of strikes before having her mouth wide open because, you get tired when you try to throw 100% power into all your strikes. And now Waterson Gomez, is a lot more experienced, Brady, and she's got 17 more professional fights. She's got over 225 more minutes in the pro cage. She's got 10 more fights at the UFC level and about 160 more minutes in the UFC cage. In addition to that, Michelle's done a nice job of wrestling. 16 takedowns in 12 fights, 1.33 takedowns per 15 minutes, and she wins about 51% of the control time positions that she's in. So she can find some spots to win minutes on top. And then she's got that karate style, that traditional martial arts style where she can maintain distance with her kicks. So if Pinheiro is somebody that kind of needs to be close to her opponent to do her best work, to throw her power strikes and to get into the clinch where she can set up her judo takedowns, her throws, her sweeps, her reaps, I don't think that Michelle Waterson Gomez is going to be able to or I don't think that Luana is going to be getting the fight that she wants. I think Michelle's going to be very conscious about when she engages Luana Pinheiro. And if she does that, Brady, go back and watch that first round against Amanda Lemos. She probably wins the first round against Amanda Lemos. And it's not until she wrestles again successfully in the second round do we see Lemos lock up that guillotine on her. Yeah. I think that Waterson Gomez is kind of live here. Pinheiro's not this great distance striker, and we don't really know how good she is having faced Sam Hughes and Randa Marcos. I mean, Michelle Waterson Gomez has been in there with Marina Rodriguez, with Amanda Lemos, Angela Hill, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Okay, so I mean, she's seen just a way higher level of striking than what she's going to see from Luana Pinheiro. And I find Luana Pinheiro to be dependent on being in the clinch or landing big shots in order to win minutes. I don't like the fact that Luana Pinheiro probably lost 9 out of the 15 minutes in the Sam Hughes fight. So, yeah, man, I'm not laying the juice on Pinheiro here. And I think Michelle Waterson by decision at maybe plus 200 or better might be something I'm taking a look at this week.
Yeah, I think the Waterson money line in general could be something to consider. Waterson by decision, see if we can find it. Plus 225, Waterson by decision there.
Yeah, man, a half unit you could throw down there. And, Michelle's not finishing fights big time. She has finished 2 at the UFC level. And she's finished, 12 of her 18 pro wins. But, a lot of them were a long time ago. She's not really starching these hoes up at the UFC level.
Yeah, I don't hit a shot on Waterson money line there. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that she is definitely getting up there in age, 37 years old for strawweight. But yeah, it's a step down for sure, like a big step down.
Absolutely, man. So they have a very interesting fight there.
Yep. So we do have Pinheiro as the favorite, open at minus 150, currently minus 160, and then we have Waterson. She is currently sitting at plus 140, best price plus 150. The over is juiced to the tits as expected, but yeah it's a clear dog or pass situation here.
Agreed. And I don't think that under 2.5 at plus 250 is the worst look, Brady. I mean, Pinheiro's got a 70% finish rate in her wins. Michelle Waterson is a pro, 66.67% finish rate. And, we've seen Pinheiro gas in the past, and she's got a lot of power too, So at plus 250, that's a pretty standard under 2.5 line for women's mixed martial arts. But these two ladies finish a little bit better than most of the other ladies in the weight class. So it's a big enough plus number for it to be kind of interesting, even though my pick is going to be Michelle Waterson Gomez to win by decision. I think that there's a better than 27, 28% chance that this fight finishes under 2.5 rounds. So that could be an interesting look as well.
Yep, makes sense. I'm sure we'll talk about that more tomorrow on probability on the MMA engine as well.
Yeah.
All right. I think this is the last fight on these prelims. We have Kelvin Gastelum going against Chris Curtis. Really good fight here. We got Gastelum, 31 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach. Chris Curtis, 35 years old, 5'10", with a 75-inch reach. Gastelum, 4 years younger. It's going to be Chris Curtis with a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Kelvin Gastelum is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Darren Till. Submission loss to Jack Hermanson. Decision win against Ian Heinisch, decision loss to Robert Whitaker and Jared Cannonier. As far as Chris Curtis, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Phil Hawes, knockout win against Brendan Allen, decision win against Rodolfo Vieira, decision loss against Jack Hermanson, and then knockout win against Joaquin Buckley. So yeah, same thing as last fight, kind of like Gastelum's losing these fights, but he's losing them to good competition. Jared Cannonier, really tough fight. Robert Whitaker, really tough fight. Jack Hermanson, tough fight. Darren Till, I thought he could have potentially won that fight. It was a very close fight. Chris Curtis's wins are actually pretty decent. Beating Phil Hawes by knockout, I like that win a lot. That Brendan Allen win is aging very well. Knocked him out, looked really good in the Allen fight. I remember being on Allen as like a big favorite, and Chris Curtis pulled off the upset. Beat Rodolfo Vieira, stuffing like a ton of takedowns in that matchup, and then beating Joaquin Buckley, another very good win here. So yeah, I think this is a really good fight. I think it's the closest line fight on the card, about to pick him here. So yeah, Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one? Should be a very fun one as the feature prelim here.
Yeah, we haven't seen Gastelum in a minute, man. Let me just figure out how long it's been, because I think it's been at least a year and a half. Kelvin Gastelum's last fight was 8/21/21. So all of 2022, 3.5 months of 2021, and now 4 months of 2023 here. We're talking about a year and a half of an absence here for Kelvin Gastelum, and he's lost 5 out of his last 6 fights. So I think a lot of people are just kind of writing this dude off. But it's Kelvin Gastelum. We've seen this guy grow up before our eyes in the UFC. He's only 31 years old, and he's got 20 UFC fights. His UFC debut was against Uriah Hall. And if you guys remember that season of The Ultimate Fighter, there was never in the history of the Ultimate Fighter a more feared fighter than Uriah Hall going into that main event. And Kelvin Gastelum was 21 years old, and he smoked Uriah in that fight. And we've just seen him get better and better. And he just couldn't make 170, which was a shame, because he should be at 170. But now he's up here at 185 and fighting the best guys in the division. And he's one of the most durable dudes in the entire UFC. And he's going to be fighting in Chris Curtis, one of the most durable dudes on planet Earth. These guys have got 17 combined losses, and only 4 of them are inside the distance, and only 1 of them is by knockout. Think about that, man. 64 professional fights between Gastelum and Chris Curtis, and these guys have only been knocked out combined a total of once. So you don't get to bring a shovel anymore into the cage. They don't let you put the stinger on your glove where you have the barbed wire there. So now that they don't let you do that anymore, this fight's probably going to decision. And we talked about a parlay piece earlier, Brady. How about the over 2.5 for Chris Curtis Gastelum? And we're just saying that we're counting on both of these guys' durability. Neither one of these guys ever really gets knocked out. The only time Chris Curtis got knocked out, it was by Ray Cooper III, and it was the second time that he had fought that night. That's the only time in 39 professional fights that Chris Curtis has been knocked out. So I like the over 2.5 here. But, there's a couple of things that worry me about Chris Curtis. First of all, he's very low volume, Brady. Those distance striking numbers that I spent the entire month off accumulating for the last 10 years of UFC experience, these are such great tools to determine who has the better minute winning capabilities at distance when these fights aren't in control time positions. And with a guy like Curtis, we see that, right? He's landing 5.31 significant strikes a minute, but he's absorbing almost 7. He throws 10.5 significant strike attempts per minute at distance, but his opponents are throwing 15.33. But Chris Curtis has landed 3 knockdowns in 5 fights. So he can lose fights up until he wins them with that one-touch power. The problem is that Gastelum is a bad guy to wait to land a big shot against, because it's not like you can't land a big shot against Gastelum. The question is it going to negatively affect him? Because you can hit this guy with a shovel square in the face, he's going to keep coming forward. So Chris Curtis, not a great minute winner. Kelvin Gastelum is. He throws about 0.84 more distance strike attempts per minute than his opponents do, and he's landing 0.27 more. And in addition to that, Kelvin's a good wrestler, man. He mixes it in and wins minutes in the wrestling exchanges. And he's very efficient there as well, Brady. Check it out. 59 takedown attempts for Gastelum in his UFC career, but he's seen 78 against him. Kelvin has 19 takedowns, but he's given up 29. So you would expect him to be out-controlled. But he's out-controlling his opponents 15% to 14.27%. He's actually winning 51% of the control time positions that he's in here. So I think that Kelvin Gastelum will be throwing more volume here at range. I think that they're both very good strikers and are both going to have success on the feet. I definitely give Chris Curtis the power advantage, but don't forget Kelvin Gastelum's the much younger guy here. And he's the guy with the much higher level experience, even though Chris Curtis, you can't, say that he hasn't fought great fighters. He's definitely fought great fighters, and he's been doing it his whole life. But the upper echelon of guys that these guys have faced, you really can't even compare it. Gastelum has fought everybody at 170 and 185, while Chris Curtis has been fighting solid competition. It's a very fascinating fight, but I think that this one goes the full 3 rounds. Definitely love the over 2.5 here. I think whatever side you're on, your best odds are to just pick either Gastelum to win by decision or Chris Curtis to win by decision. But I like Kelvin Gastelum to win this one by decision. His wins are against much more experienced competition. His fights are against much more experienced competition. He's definitely the guy that is going to win minutes in the wrestling should either one of these guys win minutes there. And I think that he'll be throwing more volume from distance. And we just have to worry about Curtis landing that big shot and dropping Gastelum on his ass. And if he's unable to do that, I think Kelvin's going to win this fight by decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the other side just because I want to be on the plus money in this one. Like you said, this fight's going to decision.
Yeah.
How bad have the judges freaking sucked lately? I mean,
so right.
I think it's going to be a close fight. Both guys are going to have their moments. It's going to go the full 15, and the judges are probably going to get it wrong. So if I'm betting aside, it's going to be on the plus money, which Gastelum was at plus money for a while. Like, listen to this. Chris Curtis opened up minus 170. He's currently plus 110. Gastelum opened up plus 145. Like, he was sitting at plus money for a while. Was sitting at plus 130, plus 120 for a while. I think I'd rather be on the plus money. So for that reason, I am going to go with Curtis, but I don't know if I want to get involved with a fight that I think is going to go the distance at this point. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm going to take Curtis, but not sure if I'm going to be betting this one. But yeah, I agree with you. Over 2.5 is a good parlay piece. Take the judges out of it. I mean, the judges can't affect an over 2.5, right?
Yeah, the ref can. Might be Dan the Tan Murgliata in there, and I'm going to go, no! I mean, it's just, there's going to be somebody screwing you over, man. If it's not the judges, it's the refs. And if it's not the refs or the judges, then you just bet on a fighter who does stupid shit. There's a lot of ways for things to go wrong, Brady. It's just we love it when they go right. We love it when our reads are right. And we'll see which one of us is right on this one. But there is nothing wrong with saying, I just want the plus money because I can't trust these judges. And
yeah,
I mean, it's a great point to bring up in any fight these days because we have seen some unprecedented horse shit judging over just these last two events that it's unbelievable that some of these guys are even getting the privilege to sit cage side at a UFC event. How the hell do you come up with Marlon Vera 48-47? Explain to me how somebody that's not on acid or mushrooms or bath salts or crystal meth could possibly score a fight that way. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, this guy must have driven that Ojeda. He must have driven away in a Ferrari and came in a Chevy Citation. I'm telling you, man, I don't understand how these guys get away with this shit.
I'm still shocked that somebody scored that fight 48-47 for Vera. Like, I'm a big Vera fan. I was obviously rooting for the guy. I don't think he won like 1 minute of that fight. Like, I don't know. To give him 3 rounds, let alone even one, I think that was probably one of the worst scorecards I've ever witnessed. It remind me of the what was that fight? Was it RDA Paul Felder, where RDA clearly won the fight, and then one of the judges randomly scored it for Paul Felder? And there was that meme where Paul Felder with his mustache was like, "What? Like, yeah, like what? What's going on?"
Even Felder was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Because he was actually embarrassed that one of the judges gave him that fight because he knows what happened in there. Felder was in there for 25 minutes with RDA. He knows he lost that fight. And Jack Hermanson versus Sean Strickland. They came up with a 48-47 Hermanson card. Our old friend Sal D'Amato. I mean, it's unbelievable, this judging. And I've always wondered, right? You see Ojeda with that scorecard. Why am I not seeing film of like Dana White being held back by 5 people trying to choke this prick? I mean, because if I were Dana White and these people were ruining my sport and making it look more like professional wrestling with the outcome when it comes to the judges rather than a fair fight that's supposed to be judged by professionals who have watched MMA before, not just boxing and not just, fixing fights for whoever pays them the most money. Why aren't we seeing, like these people frothing at the mouth saying, if you let that motherfucker Joel Ojeda into one of my events to judge my fights, we're never showing up in your state again. Fix the fucking problem. And it starts with Dana White opening his big mouth. And he's got a big fucking mouth, but it's time for him to open it and start to protect the integrity of this sport, Brady, because it is absolutely being rusted away before our eyes by these prick judges who, I mean, they shouldn't even be allowed ever again to judge a fight after coming up with shit like that. And I want to see the brass get mad about it.
Exactly. How about some accountability? Like there was some accountability with that one ref. Who was it? Kisaev?
Yeah.
Like, that was nice.
They escorted him out.
Yeah, there you go. Like, why
and
not
you don't
do
see
that?
Why doesn't that happen to judges?
I know. That'd be nice.
It would.
but nothing's going to happen. I don't think.
Yep.
I don't think anything's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, nothing more than your Uncle Weezy coming on Stat Diggers and bitching every damn Sunday to a bunch of people who are nodding their head going, yeah, I think he's on to something there. But they'll never fix that problem because fixing fights is just too profitable.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen, at least in the very near future. I don't expect to. But hey, it'd be nice. It'd be very nice if there was some accountability to some of these guys. But I doubt it. But Weezy, we have a fire main card to talk about. Really looking forward to all 5 of these fights here. If you guys have not already,
fired up about it too, man.
He's happy. I'm happy about it. Looking forward to it. It'll be a card that I'm definitely willing to spend like the $85 on. I mean, this is going to be a very good main card. If you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy go live every Sunday for Stat Diggers, and we're kicking off the main card with a banger. Raul Rosas Jr. going against Christian Rodriguez. We have Rosas Jr. only 18 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. Christian Rodriguez, 25 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Rodriguez is a very young guy in his own right, but it's actually going to be Rosas, who's 7 years younger. It's going to be Rosas with a 2-inch height advantage, but a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Raul Rosas Jr., 5-0. In his last 5 fights, had a decision win on the Contender Series. I believe the first time he went the full 15 minutes, looked solid doing so. And then went out there and submitted Jay Perrin in the very first round in his debut. Good debut there for him. Christian Rodriguez is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Had a win on the Contender Series against Reyes Cortez Jr. I believe that's the brother of Tracy Cortez. Solid performance there. Made his debut against Jonathan Pierce. This was on short notice, and made a really good account for himself in that fight. A lot of people, including me, expected Jonathan Pierce to kind of run right through him, break him, like Jonathan Pierce tends to do, and especially seeing Rodriguez coming in on short notice. Thought Pierce would get him out of there, but that was not the case. It looked like Rodriguez was like the fresher guy in the third round, was landing big shots on Jonathan Pierce in the third. Lost that fight by decision, but it's a fight where his stock went up very high in the loss, I thought. And then goes out there and submits Joshua Weems, which Weems came in with one of the most questionable hairstyles I've seen in some time. He had that blue hair. And right when I saw that blue hair, I knew my Rodriguez inside the distance ticket was cashing right then and there. I mean, you're not going to come in to the octagon and blue hair and expect to win a fight. At least I don't think. Rodriguez, great performance there with that submission win. And Weezy, I went and watched the tape on Rodriguez, and I'm so freaking impressed with this guy. I think this kid's super good. He's only 25 years old. I think the sky's the limit for Rodriguez. Was very impressed in that Cortez win, that the Ryan win, the Pierce loss. I was super impressed. And then, of course, the Weems win, I was really impressed. And there was a moment in that Pierce fight where I thought he was going to finish Jonathan Pierce in the very first round at a very tight guillotine. I'm not sure how Pierce was able to get out of that, but Rodriguez has a really good guillotine. I think that might come into play here. See, I'm watching Rodriguez. I'm very impressed. And then I go and watch Raul Rosas Jr. and I'm like, man, how the heck is this kid only 18 years old? I mean, he's going out there and he looks like he's been fighting forever. I mean, he's just going out there. His grappling's really good. A lot of things impressed me. Like the wrestling's very good. The grappling's really good. He's going out there. He's going for submissions. He's getting himself into bad spots at times, but he's able to get out of those bad spots. Very hard to choke this guy out. The striking, we haven't seen a ton of it, and that's really because we don't really need to. He's going out there and wrestling consistently. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. This is probably my favorite fight, honestly, on the entire card. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to this fight more than like the main event, honestly, like more than the Burns Masvidal fight. I'm looking forward to the Yanez Font fight quite a bit, but this is a matchup I really have circled here, Weezy, because I'm just high on both these guys. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one? Should be a very fun fight.
Yeah, I mean, you really summed it up perfectly. I could see around the year 2030, 2031, like these guys being top 5 bantamweights, both of them. Especially with Rosas only being 18 years old. 18. You got Christian Rodriguez is only 25 years old. And when you watch Christian on the feet, man, I mean, his boxing is so crisp. The way that he digs that left to the body is just so nasty. Everything is thrown in combination. It's crisp. It's powerful. And he just looks really confident in his striking. In addition to that, the kid's got an amazing guillotine. He's extremely tough. He's fought a couple of really good guys in Reyes Cortez Jr. and Jonathan Pierce, and had really good performances in both of those fights. And I'm telling you, man, we were talking about it before the fight started, or before the show started. I think that guillotine that Christian Rodriguez had Pearson in the first, I mean, I think 3/4 of the division taps to that. That was so deep. That was so in. And I remember the guys, Santino DeFranco and Brandon, they were talking about Christian Rodriguez after that fight happened, because they were talking about how when Pierce was fighting Makwan Amirkhani, that they were saying that they were having everybody put Jonathan Pierce in the tightest anaconda choke that they could put it in. And they were Pierce was letting them lock it on as tight as they could possibly lock. And then they would start grappling. And they said that nobody was getting them out of there. The kid's got gills, so there's a very good chance that, Christian Rodriguez might have beaten Jonathan Pierce on very short notice. And he had a lot of success in that fight, despite the fact that he took it on short notice, up a weight class against a guy that should be a lightweight. I mean, Pierce is just an absolutely ginormous featherweight, and Rodriguez is a bantamweight. So I was really impressed by that performance. And then, you can watch the tape on Raul Rosas Jr. and you realize that this kid is for real. There are many different types of intelligence, and one of them is physical intelligence. And great athletes have great physical intelligence. Their body just moves. They're so much more coordinated than other people. And people with good physical intelligence often wind up being very good grapplers and wrestlers, because they're thinking of 3 or 4 things at once, while the rest of us dumbasses are just going 1 + 1, and just taking it one move at a time. It's like a chess player. A good chess player is 10 moves ahead, but the people that are just starting off are just doing it one move at a time. This guy, Rosas Jr., is one of those cats that's 10 moves ahead. And he's been grappling with adults since he was a very young teenager. So he knows what grown man strength is like. He knows how to submit guys who have that grown man strength. So, like you said, dude, I think this is the fight that I'm looking forward to most on this card as well. Meerschaert Pyfer is going to be an absolute banger. And this one is going to be an absolute banger because, I just think that every second of this fight that Rosas is not wrestling, that Rodriguez is going to be 1 second away from landing a shot that absolutely changes this fight. So, I think Christian Rodriguez is very live in this spot at +200 right now. I actually bet him at +160 about a week and a half ago. Christian Rodriguez is just a cat that's been on my radar for a long time. I think he's got a ton of upside. I think he's tough. I think he's the kind of kid who's not going to find moments that are too big for him. I think he's going to rise to the occasion. He's the opposite of a Daniel Zellhuber. I think that Christian's got a really tricky submission game of his own. And that if Raul sticks his neck out, gets a little bit sloppy on a takedown, he might wind up getting guillotined and getting swept and put in some really bad spots by a guy that hurts people and a guy that has done an excellent job of finishing fights. 7 of his 8 wins inside the distance for Christian Rodriguez, and for Raul Rosas, it's 6 of 7. So these guys are finishers. I think the under 1.5 could be a decent way to look at this at +160, because Rosas is so dangerous with his submissions, but Christian Rodriguez has got real power in his hands. And this is a great fucking fight. An 18-year-old against a 25-year-old. Kids in the toughest division, bar none, in the UFC, the bantamweight division, the future of the division. And they're squaring off to start this pay-per-view card, which is going to be followed by Holland and Ponzinibbio. We got Masvidal versus Burns. We got the 4th, iteration of Israel Adesanya versus Michelle Pereira, and even, one other fight on there that's really good too. So I can't wait for this fight. This is a great way to kick off this pay-per-view card.
Oh, yeah. I cannot wait for it as well. We have Raul Rosas Jr. He opened up -250, currently -225. Christian Rodriguez opened up +210, currently +190. I'm picking Rosas to win. I don't want anything to do with that -225, though. I think the under is kind of interesting because I think both guys are live for submission. Like Rodriguez could very well land that or get that guillotine. Rosas, obviously an incredible grappler in his own right. And then on the feet, Rodriguez could potentially get a knockout. So, I was thinking maybe the under on Bet Online, they have the under 1.5 at +160. 165. On DraftKings, they had the under 2.5 at like minus 120. I don't hate a violence look here. I think both guys are very, very dangerous. Very tough, but very dangerous guys.
Absolutely. I mean, wherever the fight goes, one of these guys is going to be much better than the other one. And that's always a great way, great archetype of fight to choose for under bets.
Yep. So that is that I will consider. But yeah, really, really looking forward to this main card opener. All right, moving on, we have Kevin Holland going against Santiago Ponzinibbio. We got Holland, 30 years old, 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. Ponzinibbio, 36 years old, 6.
Uh-oh.
What?
Oh, you froze up for a second.
Oh, like what happened? Am I back now?
Yeah, you're definitely back. You're good.
Okay, cool. Holland is going to have a 3-inch height advantage and then a massive 8-inch reach advantage. Kevin Holland is 2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Had that no contest against Kyle Dawkins with the head clash. A knockout win against Alex Oliveira. Submission win against Tim Means. Submission loss to Khamzat Chimaev. Then a knockout loss to Stephen Thompson. As far as Santiago Ponzinibbio, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Came back after a really long layoff against Li Jingliang, lost that fight by knockout. He won by decision against Miguel Baeza. He lost a decision to Jeff Neal, and then he lost a decision to Michel Pereira, and then he won by knockout against Alex Morono his last time out. And yeah, I went back and watched that Ponzinibbio fight against Morono. Like, I'm not sure what was up with Ponzinibbio that night, but he got hurt in every single round against Alex Morono. Like, I'm not sure what was going on there, but Morono dropped him bad. I think it was in the first round. And then the second round, Morono hurts him again. And then even in the third round, Morono goes out there and hurts Ponzinibbio early in the round. And then it's actually Ponzinibbio that lands a big shot and finishes Morono like midway through the third round. So I'm not sure if that durability is starting to go a little bit from Ponzinibbio because he got hurt a lot in that Morono fight. Yeah, it feels like it should be a solid Kevin Holland fight. It's really hard to trust Kevin Holland at chalk. Like, Kevin Holland is a guy that has some pretty questionable fight IQ at times. He's a guy that will make mistakes in fights. He'll play around in fights. So he's not really a guy I want to lay a ton of chalk on. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a really good fight for him. I mean, this is a fight where Ponzinibbio is not going to try to take him down, which is going to be nice. It's going to be a fight where they're going to stay standing. Holland's going to be younger, bigger, 8-inch reach advantage, lots of power. Yeah, feels like a good Holland spot. It's just laying chalk on Kevin Holland is not something I typically like doing, but I don't know. I don't really think it's a great matchup for Ponzinibbio here. I don't think Ponzinibbio knocks out Kevin Holland. I don't think Ponzinibbio goes out there and wrestles Kevin Holland. It could be somewhat competitive. Ponzinibbio is a good fighter, but I just think the bigger shots are going to be coming from Holland. I think Holland can even hurt Ponzinibbio, potentially even finish him. But yeah, the pick for me is Kevin Holland, but don't really love the price tag. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's a pretty good spot for Holland. He's 6 years younger. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got an 8-inch reach advantage. And this is a guy who does his best work on the feet. You know, and with Ponzinibbio, we don't really have to worry about Santiago Ponzinibbio wrestling. He's got 16 UFC fights, and he's only completed 6 takedowns, and he's only attempted 20. So he's averaging 0.52 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he gets 4.39% control time. So less than 5% is this guy controlling his opponents, which is one of the places where you really have the opportunity to win minutes against Kevin Holland. And you look at the distance striking numbers, and they both have significant striking. They're both landing more than they absorb. They both throw more than they absorb. But, you know, Ponzinibbio's got about a 0.5 significant strike differential, which is solid. But for Kelvin Holland, it's about 1.7. So it's much better. And then Holland's a lot more accurate, 51% distance accuracy compared to 41% for Santiago Ponzinibbio. And Ponzinibbio is more defensively responsible, 62.5% defense. For Kevin Holland, it's only 54%. But Kevin Holland has never once been knocked down in the UFC. I mean, this guy's got crazy durability, dude. So I don't see Santiago Ponzinibbio having much of a chance to finish this fight because Kevin Holland is so durable. We have seen him knocked out once, but that was him basically quitting on the stool after round 4 because he had broken his hand against Wonder Boy in a fight that he was losing up until that point. So, but you said it though, man. If you lay juice on Kevin Holland, you are going to really be yelling at the TV. I mean, when you saw a guy in Kevin Holland allow Stephen Thompson to stand back up after he could have just laid on top of him and won a ton of minutes, not once, but twice in a 5-round fight. And he had a broken hand. So this guy, even with a broken hand, was telling Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, no, get back up. Let's continue striking where you're at your best. So this is not the kind of guy that you want to be laying juice on, plain and simple. He makes too many stupid decisions. He'll sit there talking shit when guys are on top of him instead of trying to get up or go for submissions. He'll sit there talking to his opponents on the feet. He will, not wrestle when he can. He will allow his opponents to get up when he has them knocked down. A lot of bad decision making, but he's more experienced at the UFC level than Ponzinibbio is, despite the fact that he's 6 years younger. He's got that cheat code size for this division. We've seen Santiago be in there with some really good strikers, though, lately. Look at those last 5 names. Alex Morono, Michel Pereira, Jeff Neal, Miguel Baeza, and Li Jingliang. So it's not like Santiago is out of his depth in this spot. So this line doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Kevin Holland's not a great moment winner. I mean, a great minute winner, I should say. He's a very good moment winner, but he's not a great minute winner. Maybe a decision-only prop on Santiago Ponzinibbio could be a decent look this week, just because we know that Kevin Holland is not a guy who's out there winning a ton of minutes. He's 4-5 in his career in decisions, despite having a 23-9 record as a pro. Santiago Ponzinibbio is 7-3 in decisions, so he's much better at winning minutes, and he's been in there against some really talented strikers in Pereira, in Neal, in Baeza, in Li Jingliang. Even Morono is a high-volume guy who is durable, so he can pose some problems. So, yeah, I mean, I don't expect either of these guys to initiate grappling. I think it's going to be a stand-up battle, and I think it's going to be a close fight. It's going to be a bit of a war.
Yeah, I don't like betting on Kevin Holland fights. Like, he's the guy that I always lose money on his fights one way or another. Besides the Tim Means fight. The Tim Means fight, I actually did have a decent-sized amount bet on Holland inside the distance. But outside of that, he's kind of a tough guy to reach because he's kind of an idiot, dude. Like, he's not smart. Like, he makes so many mistakes. He's messing around in there. And like somebody said in the chat, like, he doesn't really fight for your money. He's going to go on there and just mess around, have fun. I don't know. I don't want to lay minus 300 on a guy like that. So it's a pass for me. You mentioned the decision only for Ponzinibbio. It's plus 275, which is even better than his money line, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. This is going to be a fun one because Ponzinibbio always walks forward. He's a good kickboxer, and Holland's a fun guy to watch. I like the fact that he talks shit. Not when I have my money not when I have my money on his money line, but he's fun to watch. So. Yeah, great fight. And, and Kevin Holland's still only 30 years old. This guy's career has been less than 8 years, and he's got 33 professional fights. He's so active. He's so durable. You don't see that a lot, and I think that's a great combination of skills to have that will take you a long way in this business. And now that Kevin Holland is cutting down to 170, which is the weight class he should have been at all along, if he can figure out how to put it all together, man, he's going to be a fucking problem at this weight class with that length, with that size, with that power, with that chin. He's just got to stop doing stupid shit. He's got to take things a little bit more seriously and figure out how to win minutes a little bit more, and he'll be a lot better risk to lay juice on. But as of right now, I'm still not ready to lay juice on Kevin Holland.
No, and like you say, he's still so young, but why does he keep talking about retirement? Like, he said he retired after the Chimaev fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was joking or not, but I don't know.
He wasn't joking, dude. He's just sick of getting grapple fucked.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even supposed to have that fucking fight. Chimaev was supposed to be fighting Nate Diaz, and then he showed up 11 pounds heavy, so they had to completely change around the whole card. And I think that, that's rough for Kevin Holland. He was supposed to fight Rodriguez, I think. And that would have been a great fight for him. And then now he's like, oh, well, now you want to take a fight against Chimaev, a guy who's now a middleweight, when you cut down to welterweight. So, yeah, I mean, Dana got him out of retirement. It didn't take him long. He sent him a nice pair of shoes and a letter, and Kevin was like, all right, I'm back. This guy loves to fight.
Yeah, he does. And he loves money, and he probably got paid a ton for that Chimaev fight.
Let's hope he did. I really do hope he did.
Yep. All right, 3 fights left. We have a very good fight here. Looking forward to this one. We got Rob Font going against Adrian Yanez. We got Rob Font, 35 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach. Adrian Yanez, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. We got Yanez 6 years younger. It's going to be Rob Font with both a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Rob Font is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Ricky Simon, a knockout win against Marlon Moraes, a decision win against Cody Garbrandt, a decision loss to Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera. Adrian Yanez, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Victor Rodriguez. Knockout win against Gustavo Lopez. Knockout win against Randy Costa. Split decision win against Davey Grant. And then a knockout win against Tony Kelly. I think for me personally, this is my toughest fight to call on the entire card, because I feel like this could potentially be a really good dog spot for Rob Font. Like, look at those names: Marlon Vera, Jose Aldo, Cody Garbrandt, Marlon Moraes, Ricky Simon. And then look at those names for Yanez: Victor Rodriguez, Gustavo Lopez, Randy Costa. Like, I don't think Lopez, Costa, or Rodriguez are even in the UFC anymore. Davey Grant, which was a very close fight. Like, I remember being on Yanez in that fight and being very uncomfortable, with that fight going the distance. Like, that was a very close competitive fight. Honestly, could have went either way. And then he goes out there and beats Tony Kelly, which I think Tony Kelly's been cut since. So it's a big, big step up of competition for Adrian Yanez, like a big, big step up. And Rob Font's fought very good guys in the division. It's just, I don't like how Rob Font is reacting to shots nowadays. I don't like how much he's getting hurt. Like, he got hurt in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round in the Marlon Vera fight. Each of those rounds was super close to getting finished. He recovered in each of those rounds, but he still got hurt bad. Was on the verge of getting finished bad in each of those 2, 3, 4, and 5 rounds. Against Jose Aldo, kind of the same thing. He's doing a lot of good work. He's outlanding Jose Aldo in terms of the numbers, but Aldo's having those big moments. He's hurting Rob Font. I think he dropped him twice, hurt him multiple times in that fight. So it's just, Rob Font is a incredible minute winner. It's just, I don't know if he has that same durability as he once did. So I don't know. I feel like I should be taking a dog shot here on Rob Font, but the power of Yanez scares the crap out of me. And then on top of that, the durability at this point of Rob Font's career scares the crap out of me as well. So it's a very tough fight for me to call, but maybe you can help me out here a little bit, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so, Font's a little bit bigger, 1 inch taller, 1 inch reach advantage, 6 more professional fights, about 90 more minutes in the pro cage. And at the UFC level, he's got 9 more fights than Yanez, and he's got about 135 more minutes in the cage. And then when you go and you look at the strength of schedule numbers, these guys aren't even in the same stratosphere. Rob Font, the guys that he's fought over his 14 UFC fights have a combined record of 114 wins and 73 losses at the UFC level, a 1.56 ratio, 13.36 total fights. And the guys that he's beaten have a 53 and a 43 record, 53 wins, 43 losses, an average record of about 6 wins and 4.8 losses. But Adrian Yanez, the guys that he's beaten, have a combined record of 11 and 15 at the UFC level. The average guy that he beats has 2.2 wins and 3 losses. It's very clear to me that the UFC is very invested in the success of Adrian Yanez. They want this guy to do well. Either that or he's got the best fucking manager on the planet Earth, because it's literally mathematically impossible to give somebody 5 easier fights in the bantamweight division. I mean, the bantamweight division is full of killers. And not only has Adrian Yanez fought 4 bums and 1 average guy who's pushing 40, but in addition to that, none of these guys could take down a paper bag. They couldn't wrestle their way out of a paper bag. So they're lining up Adrian Yanez as if they're very invested in his success and as if they're going to be very careful not to give him fights that he can't lose. And they're trying to give him a step up in competition that will get people to believe in him by giving him a guy in Font who's now pushing 36 years old, who's been getting dropped in his last couple of fights. And somebody that's not going to wrestle Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez has faced 5 takedowns in 5 UFC fights. So they're very careful about giving Yanez fights where he's going to be able to stay at distance striking range, where he does his best work. He's really smooth on the feet. But even with the ass competition, right, that Yanez has faced, he's landing 6.45 significant strikes per minute at distance and absorbing 5.71. And he throws about 2.3 more strike attempts per minute at distance than his opponents do. But for Font, I mean, if this is going to be a stand-up minute-winning fight, my money's on Font. He throws 17.2 significant strike attempts per minute at distance. His opponents only throw 11. So he's out voluming his opponents by about 6 significant strike attempts per minute at distance. He's got an absolutely beautiful jab that he stays behind and that sets up all of his power strikes. And he's only absorbing 4.43 distance strikes per minute. So he actually lands 3 more strikes per minute than he absorbs at distance. And this is over a 175-minute sample size. So I kind of feel like Adrian Yanez is knockout or bust here. He could win minutes. Yeah, he could land the bigger shots, maybe drop him in 2 out of the 3 rounds and win a decision. But I kind of feel like if Yanez wins this fight, it's probably going to be my knockout, because this is such a huge step up in competition. He has not fought anybody even close to this good. And like I said, they're really handling him with kid gloves. So I mean, I think that Yanez is live to win this fight. I think he should even be a small favorite in this spot. But man, I mean, I think that this is a pretty good spot for Rob Font. And if he doesn't get knocked out, I think he's going to be a very live underdog here.
Yep, and for what it's worth, Rob Font's never been knocked out yet in 25 fights. These came very close in the Vera fight.
He's dropped a lot.
Yeah. It's a tough fight, man. I think I would just lean dogger pass just due to the line, like Font's plus 160. But yeah, I can see why people do like Yanez. I suppose he's going to be landing like the bigger shots. He'll probably hurt Font a couple times here or there. Maybe knock him out. I was looking at the Yanez knockout prop. It's only plus 165. Like, I need a much better line for that, just because it's never happened before. Nobody's been able to put out Rob Font. But yeah, Yanez could land better shots or bigger shots, have bigger moments if the fight does go the distance. And again, if this fight goes the distance, what are the judges going to be looking at as well? But yeah, I think from like a money line standpoint, it's Font as a pick. I think I'm going to pick Yanez to win the fight, but I just don't like this line at all. I feel like it should be a lot closer to a pick 'em, like minute winning versus moment winning in this one. I feel like it should be a lot closer, especially considering like the level of competition for Font as well. But just the last 2 fights for Rob Font have just really left a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like his durability might be diminishing pretty quickly here, and he's taken so much damage the last 2 fights, so we might even see like a worse version of Font as well. I'm going to pick Yanez to win the fight, but I'm not laying minus 185 on him. That's for sure.
Yeah, me neither, dude. I mean, you see that Rob Font just 5 fights ago has a win over Ricky Simon. And Ricky Simon body bags everybody that Yanez has beaten, probably in the first or second round. So I mean, like this is a lot closer than what people think. And the minute winning for Font, I think that there's just so much more potential for minute winning for Font here. It's only a 3-round fight, so I think that Font's going to be able to stay behind that jab to win some minutes at distance here. And he's going to be the guy that actually shoots takedowns. At least Font has shot 32 takedowns and is averaging 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Yanez has never even shot a takedown at the UFC level. So, if there's one guy that has the opportunity to mix in the grappling to win a minute here or there, it's going to be Rob Font, but it's just not really his game, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That was one I really struggled in terms of which side I was going to land on. Like, I feel like you can make cases for both of those fighters, Yanez with the big moments, and then Rob Font with the level of competition and the minute winning ability. So yeah, another close fight, I think, but the line doesn't really indicate that it's that much of a close fight. So probably some value on Font, but I don't know. It's just his last 2 fights scare the crap out of me. All right. Co-main event here. We have Gilbert Burns going against Jorge Masvidal. We got Gilbert Burns, 36 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. Jorge Masvidal, 38 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. We got Burns 2 years younger. It's going to be Masvidal with a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. We got Gilbert Burns is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Tyron Woodley, a knockout loss against Kamaru Usman, a decision win against Stephen Thompson, a decision loss to Khamzat Chimaev, then a submission win against Neil Magny. As far as Masvidal, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Ben Askren, a knockout win against Nate Diaz, and then a decision loss to Kamaru Usman, a knockout loss to Kamaru Usman, and then a decision loss to Colby Covington his last time out. And yeah, this is one of those fights where the line is like super wide. Like Gilbert Burns is, I want to say like he was minus 500. The lines came down a little bit. So Burns is still like minus 465. He's actually still minus 520 on FanDuel Sportsbook. It's one of those fights where I think the line is wide. It's just really hard picking Jorge Masvidal in this fight. I think Burns is going to go for takedowns here. He's going to get takedowns, but Masvidal does have good takedown defense. And what really impressed me with Masvidal was that submission defense. I mean, this guy's submission defense is elite. Remember, he fought Damian Maia a couple of years back, was able to defend off all those submission attempts. And Maia had his back for like a good chunk of that fight. And Masvidal was doing all the right things. So I really like the submission defense of Masvidal. He hasn't been submitted since 2009. So I'm not sure if Burns is just going to go out there and submit him early like he did against Neil Magny. He's been submitted a ton. So yeah, I think this fight is going to be a fight that does play out a lot on the match because Burns is going to wrestle here and he's going to control Masvidal. I think he could even take his back. But yeah, when this fight's on the feet, I mean, Burns is not going to look minus 500. I'll say that. Burns, I really question his chin at points. He got hurt like with, that jab with Usman nonstop. Got hurt a lot against Khamzat as well. And yeah, maybe Masvidal could knock him out, but I just don't think Burns is going to give him much of an opportunity here. I like Burns to win the fight, but minus 500, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me whatsoever. But it's as a pick, I got to go Burns here, but minus 500, I think there's better parlay pieces on the card. Like, for example, the Carl Williams, I'd feel much better with Carl Williams around minus 390. I feel better with like Anasia Bahamondes. I don't know. I have a weird feeling about this one, but I feel like Burns is going to kind of grind this one out and win by decision. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way you do. Two old men here, though. Let's face it, dude. Gilbert Burns is 36 in 8 months, and Jorge is 38 years old in 4 months. Jorge Masvidal, 51 professional fights. Gilbert Burns, 26. These guys have got 40 professional fights at the UFC level between the two of them. It's just that Jorge's been here a little bit longer, but you look at the record, 12-9 for Jorge Masvidal. It's kind of hard to believe that he even got up to this level, that he even got to championship attempts after beating Ben Askren and Nate Diaz, and then all of a sudden he was fighting for a championship. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but maybe it was just that baller ass robe. He was looking like Scarface, like an extra from Scarface from the late 80s. And people were like, man, that guy's going to be able to sell fights. And maybe that's why he's in there. But it just doesn't, like this guy's been talking about getting another title shot. And I'm like, in what world does Masvidal get another title shot? How do you be 12-9 in the UFC and be considered for title shots? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then, because of that, I think that this line is just swung way too far in favor of Gilbert Burns here because Masvidal still has power. Masvidal is still very smooth on the feet. And, this guy's got 51 professional fights. And, the next 15 seconds that he spends in the UFC cage is going to take him over 600 minutes. That's 10 hours of his life that this guy has spent in the professional cage fighting for his life. So he's very experienced here. And he's, like I say, he's not even 2 years older than Gilbert Burns. So, yeah, while this fight is on the feet, Masvidal is not going to look plus 380. He's going to look much better than that. And Gilbert Burns is averaging 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's gotten 29 takedowns in 19 fights. He's out-controlling his opponents 26% to 12%. But wow, that's not really efficient. You would think for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion who's out takedowning his opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio that he would be out controlling his opponents at much better than a 2-to-1 ratio, maybe 4-to-1, maybe 5-to-1, maybe 10-to-1. But it's not the case, man. Gilbert Burns' fights are taking place in control time positions, less than 40% of the time. So if this fight isn't taking place in control time positions, let's say 25% of the time, it's probably worth the dog shot on Masvidal here, because he could absolutely land a big shot. And you want to hear an alarming statistic, Brady? Check this one out. Guess how many times Gilbert Burns has been knocked down in the UFC?
A lot. I'm going to say 9.
Dude, it's been 7 times in 19 fights, dude. And that's 7 knockdowns on only 678 significant strikes. So over 1% of the significant strikes that he absorbs are knocking him down. And it's over 1.27% at distance. So you got a guy in Masvidal who's landing a knockdown on about 1.17% of the distance strikes that he's landing. And it looks like he's landed 9 knockdowns in 21 fights as Masvidal. So to suggest that Burns should be minus 500 when we've got a guy in Masvidal who can win moments on the feet, it just seems too wide. It feels like an unbettable fight again. Like the bookies opened it up too wide. There was just no value on Burns. You got to guess whether he's going to get a knockout, a submission, or a decision to have any value at all on that line. And, Masvidal is a guy who's, last 3 fights have been against Kamaru Usman twice and Colby Covington. Basically the best guys in the division right now, that not named Leon Edwards, because Edwards is the champion. So, and Khamzat Chimaev isn't a welterweight. He's a middleweight at this point. So, this is an interesting one, man. I mean, I might be looking for a small little sprinkle on Masvidal here, but it feels like another stay away, man.
It feels like a trap. It feels like the books want you to bet on Masvidal. Like the line is clearly wide. Like I don't know if anybody's going out there and betting Gilbert Burns at minus 500. If you are, I'm not sure why you're doing that. But it feels like it's super wide. But I don't know. I feel like Burns does win the fight. So I don't know. I thought about it. I thought about pulling the trigger on Masvidal plus 380. I don't know though. I mean, I think you're right. I think stay away is probably the best move, but I just don't see in what world Burns is minus 500 here. I don't see it. Like Masvidal's grappling is good. I mean, his takedown defense is good.
Dude, and he's been fighting Usman and Covington. I mean, if you want to talk about wrestlers, those are 2 of the best in the history of the division outside of George St. Pierre and Matt Hughes. So yeah, I mean, Masvidal's been in there with all of them, so it's a disrespectful line to him. And I think that a lot of people just think Gilbert Burns is like 5-6 years younger than him. It's not the case, man. He's a year and a half younger.
Yeah, for sure. See, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the fight as of now. Right now I'm passing, but I don't know. Just that line's kind of wild. Yeah, Burns the second biggest favorite on the card, right behind Carl Williams. Interesting stuff.
There you go, man. It's a great fight, and then we get Pereira versus Adesanya, the 4th iteration. Brady, what the hell is going to happen this time?
Let's go. Yeah, I had fun breaking this one down on my channel, talking about it. Went pretty deep into this main event because it's a very good main event. Like you said, it's the 4th time these guys are going to go after it. Pereira 2-0 against Adesanya in kickboxing. Pereira 1-0 in terms of MMA. So looking forward to seeing what adjustments Adesanya makes going into this fight. But yeah, Pereira, he's 35 years old, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach, going against Adesanya, 33 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Adesanya 2 years younger. Same height there, 6'4", and then Adesanya with a 1-inch reach advantage. First off, I want to say, I think somebody's lying with those heights. Like I remember going back and watching the Adesanya Pereira fight, and Pereira looked like a freaking heavyweight in that fight. Like he was like towering over Adesanya. So I'm not sure what's going on with those heights there, but Pereira's massive. Like he had to have weighed like 215, 220, 225 even on fight night. Like Pereira looked massive. Like this guy has to cut so much weight to get down to middleweight. I'm not sure how he does it. There was even a picture circulating with Alex Pereira. I forget who he was with, but I think he was
some Brazilian heavyweight, right? And he was bigger than that dude.
He was like way bigger than that dude.
It was a giant heavyweight. And you're like, wait a second, how the fuck is he bigger than that guy? But yeah, he's huge.
The dude's massive. So I'm not sure what's going on with those heights on paper. But yeah, Pereira, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Andreas Michailidis, won that fight by second round knockout. He beat Bruno Silva by decision. He knocked out Sean Strickland and then knocked out Adesanya last time out. Adesanya, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He went up to light heavyweight, lost to Jan Blachowicz by decision. He beat Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, Jared Cannonier, all by decision, then lost to Alex Pereira by knockout. It's a very fascinating fight. I like what they did there. They rushed Alex Pereira to the top. They put him against Bruno Silva, who's not going to take him down. Andreas Michailidis, who's not going to take him down. Sean Strickland, who probably should have tried to take him down, but did not try to take him down. And then title shot, completely skipping guys that are going to take him down, like Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori. So yeah, kind of got an easy track to the title there. And yeah, stylistically, Adesanya's probably not going to try to take him down. He tried to take him down 4 times in their last fight. Adesanya was successful in one of those. And we saw once Adesanya got on top of Pereira didn't have anything and didn't have an answer. He didn't get up the rest of the round there. So I would have been curious to see, how Pereira dealt against like Whittaker, Marvin Vettori, but I'm sure we'll see that potentially in the future. I would like to see like an Alex Pereira, Robert Whittaker fight in the future there. But yeah, I don't think Adesanya is going to go out there and take this guy down across 25 minutes. I think these guys are going to strike. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to be close. It's going to be Alex Pereira who's going to be, marching forward, pressuring Israel Adesanya. It's going to be Adesanya who's probably going to be higher volume, more tools on the feet, but it's going to be Pereira with, more power. So very, very fun main event. Looking forward to this one. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one, Weezy.
Yeah. It's such an interesting, like the way that they set this up. You touched on it, Brady. Like Israel Adesanya had cleaned out the division. He really had, he'd beaten everybody, beaten some of them twice. And they just couldn't find anybody that was going to be able to kickbox with this guy at distance and win minutes or moments against him. And Israel was shown damn good takedown defense. When he would get taken down, he'd get back up. So he cleaned out the division. And then in comes Alex Pereira. And it's obvious that they brought this guy in. They were already talking about matching him up with Adesanya, right? And so then they give him Michailidis, who's got 2.5 minutes of cardio, but he can wrestle. Michailidis is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, but he gassed out after the first round and got knocked out. And then they gave him Bruno Silva, who's never even attempted a submission in his entire career and has been submitted in 5 of his 6 losses. So somebody that's just no threat at all to challenge Pereira on the ground. Sean Strickland, who's got room temperature IQ when it comes to making choices in the cage, in life as well.
Oh, yeah.
This guy will go out on a motorcycle after almost dying in a motorcycle wreck and then like literally film himself taking unnecessary risks on the same bike that he almost died on. So of course he goes out there and doesn't shoot one takedown. And then you get the rematch against Adesanya, who can't wrestle at all. And if he could wrestle a lick, we would have seen it. Yeah. Right? The only takedown he got, Brady, was the Pereira initiated it. And then he wound up getting reversed and put on his back. I'm telling you, man, half the division beats this guy, Pereira. But Pereira is the only guy with the skill set to be able to beat Israel Adesanya. He's equally as technical at range. He's 10 times more powerful than Israel. And, he can do the things that are going to give Israel problems. We see when Israel wants to be conservative, that he could just stand at range and touch your calf and touch your leg and do it over and over again. You won't be able to touch him. He'll be able to touch you. And he can sit in a very boring, distance striking battle and win minutes. He doesn't have that option against Alex Pereira. Alex is tougher. Alex is way more powerful. And Alex is bigger and longer than him. Even though it doesn't show it, we both know that he is. So it's just hilarious because, like, dude, if Anthony Hernandez was fighting Alex Pereira, I would put 10 units on Anthony Hernandez. And I would already be planning what I was going to do with that money before the fight even started, because I would be that sure that Hernandez is going to absolutely drown this dude. But that's not Israel Adesanya. He doesn't have it in him to win that kind of a fight. He's not a wrestler. He never has been. This guy's been talking shit about his submission game, Brady, for 11 fucking years. We've never seen it. It's not there. So this is a kickboxing match. It's a kickboxing match. When one of these guys has got more power, one of these guys is bigger, one of these guys he's got the momentum because he's beaten the other guy 3 times in a row now. So if I had any faith that Israel Adesanya had any kind of well-roundedness to his game, I would probably lay the juice here. But I got to think that Alex Pereira is going to knock this dude out again.
Yep. I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. I don't know if I'd say like half the division beats Alex Pereira, but yeah, I think Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori, guys like that, the guys that are going to take him down can give him a lot of problems. Like we saw when Adesanya got him down, Pereira had just nothing. So, and yeah, Adesanya, I don't expect him to go out there and wrestle. I expect this fight to play out on the feet. And when it does, Pereira is going to have the power, the pressure. I like how he pressured in that fight, especially in that 5th round. Which was kind of crazy because he started to look a little bit tired in that 3rd round, but came out in the 5th round strong, pressured, and it doesn't look like Izzy likes to be pressured, and that's what Pereira is going to do the entire time. So, I think it's dog or pass. Pereira, it might be something I potentially bet at plus 120. I get why Adesanya is the favorite, I suppose. He was on his way to winning the Pereira fight. He was up 3-1 on most of the judges' scorecards, but of course, as we know, every fight's different. It's a dog or pass for me. And I might be taking the shot on Pereira, whether it's like a knockout prop or maybe just the money line. But I do come out thinking Pereira is going to get this done, whether it's landing the harder shots, having the bigger moments, or even just putting out Adesanya again. I think it's, like you said, Weezy, a lot of guys can't be Adesanya in the middleweight division. Pereira is a guy that has the skill set to do so.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the and good on the UFC for letting Pereira skip over the rest of the division, guys that would have absolutely shaved his ass, because at least they found a new champion now. Because Izzy had been fighting some boring fucking fights, Brady. So I think the UFC got what they wanted here. And if Pereira gets this win, we might even see him move up a weight class, because this weight cut is ridiculous on him. He's not getting any younger. He's pushing 36 years old. And I just think that he's going to need to find Israel Adesanya type fighters. I think he's going to get embarrassed by a lot of guys because he's got no ground game, none. And they've been very careful, like what they have with Adrian Yanez, to not give this guy any kind of an opponent that could challenge any of the weaknesses in his game. So, yeah, man, I think I'm on Pereira here, even though he's a knockout or bust type of guy, not a great minute winner. Israel Adesanya doesn't have the well-rounded skill set in order to be able to put Pereira where he's going to be least comfortable. And that just leads me to believe that over 25 minutes, eventually, that left hook finds the mark.
And that's what happened last time. He had 25 minutes to do it. He ended up doing it in the 5th round. And yeah, it could be in any round. Like, this guy hits like an absolute truck. And I do lean Pereira myself. And it might be something I even bet as well. I do want to see where this line opened at, though. Israel Adesanya opened up minus 150, currently minus 137. Alex Pereira opened up plus 130, currently plus 117. So not a ton of movement, but money is coming in on Pereira there.
Yeah, and I mean, he won the last fight. He's beaten this guy 3 times. He's the way more powerful guy, but he is the older guy here. Israel is actually 2 years younger than him, and, the more experienced mixed martial artist. So great main event, great fight. Really looking forward to this one, but I think that Alex Pereira is going to get his hand raised again.
Yep. AJ saying you lost your marbles, but you're picking Pereira, right?
Yeah, I'm picking Pereira, and no, I haven't lost my marbles. I haven't at all. I mean, like, look, dude, this guy can either wrestle or he can't, and he can't fucking wrestle. So you guys go ahead. When Anthony Hernandez or Jacob Malkoon fights Alex Pereira, go ahead. Put all your money on Pereira. I'll be laughing my ass off, max betting whoever can wrestle against this guy, and then I'll shut you all up with my tickets after he wins. But this isn't that fight. It's just not that fight. Yeah. This is mixed martial arts. It's not kickboxing. And if you can't wrestle and you can't grapple, guys like Anthony Hernandez and Jacob Malkoon, Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, they're going to toy with him. And just wait. I'll be there. I'll be there to listen to you guys after it happens. But it's not going to happen this time.
It's not, because Adesanya is not none of those guys for sure, but I like it. All right, Weezy, we did it. We went through all 13 fights. Thank you all for hanging out. Weezy, let the people know where they can find you and your plans for this week for some content. Looking forward to some probability tomorrow.
Yeah, probability tomorrow on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. We're going to be taking a data-driven look at all the over-under lines on this card. And let's face it, man, with all these money lines juiced to the tits, these over-unders are probably where we're going to have to make our hay this week in order to cash some tickets. So make sure you join Brady and I 5:15 Central Time, right, Brady? 6:15 your time for probability.
Yep,
On the MMA Engine YouTube channel. And then Tuesday night on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, 10 o'clock Central Time. We'll do Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. I'm going to break down all these fights from a stats and tape study perspective, give you my track bets, finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do the DFS show on Pub Sports Radio with myself, Brady, Gordo, and Monk. And then I'll probably be doing Ask Weezy and maybe even some prize picks and underdog content on my channel as well, because I have created a brand new template that is going to put the analytics into the hands of the people, Brady, the people, so that we can bust these pricks over at Prize Picks and Underdog and make a bunch of money betting over-unders on significant strikes, takedowns, fantasy scores, and all these other things. So yeah, keep an eye out for all of that. Appreciate all you guys tuning in on a Sunday night to watch Brady and I talk about these fights, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 287.
Let's do it. Yeah, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. I did just post a main event breakdown on my channel, DFS by the numbers. Looking at potentially debuting a new show on my channel as well throughout the week. We'll see about that. So tune into that potentially. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it this week or next week, but yeah, guys, like, subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. Should be a very fun card, very good card from a fan perspective. Not so much from a betting perspective, but there are a couple spots that stuck out that I will probably be hopping on by the end of the night here. So best of luck. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you later.